Jack Sauce, Eric here. And of course, you know that means beer review is back. All right, we're gonna do something fun today. Not in the sense of what we usually do, triple dry hop, this or that, or barrel aged this, or adjuncts to this or that. We are going to be doing a classic, iconic American beer brand with an iconic beer that they make. Something that I actually incorporated into a menu that I'm doing for a in-home event this Friday, which I love to do. Let's be honest, that's what I love to do. Jack Sauce obviously is barbecue, and I love cooking barbecue for people. But I love cooking anything in somebody's home. In-home events, celebrations, when we get to help make friends and family, just their time together that much more special. It's why I'm in this business, 20 plus years of doing it. It's why I team up with Southernish so much, because it's their passion as well. This is what we love to do. And whether it be barbecue or something a little bit more inventive like this menu, I get super excited every single time. This menu itself is fun because it talks about foods that I love, Chicago foods, iconic Chicago foods, historic Chicago foods, but even more so it goes deeper. They wanted to talk about World Fair foods, 1893 Chicago World's Fairs, foods that were invented for the fair, foods from around that time. Really exciting stuff. They wanted it all small bites and whatnot. Super cool. A lot of fun. Chicago food, right down my alley. I'm a Chicago guy. If you know Chicago food, though, you know some of the flavors are some of the best that you can possibly find. But the food is generally pretty simple, stick to your bones food, working man's food, cold weather's food. It's not delicate. It's not, something that you would normally think of as small bites. So getting to put a little twist on it, it's been a lot of fun. I knew I wanted to incorporate beer into the menu. And I wanted to find, whether it be a Chicago beer or something with the World's Fair, some way to make it into the food. Not as just something you drink with the food, but in the food, and it dawned on me. There's one beer that's synonymous with the 1893 World's Fair. It gets the name that we know because of it. It won its blue ribbon at this World's Fair. So you already know what I'm talking about. You say blue ribbon, and it still is as true to this day as it was when they originally branded it as this beer. We are talking, of course, PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon. Let's do a beer review on Pabst Blue Ribbon. Like I said, I incorporated it into the menu, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. Pabst itself started as Best Select in 1844, if I'm not mistaken. It was founded in Milwaukee by a gentleman named Philip Best, hence the name. Meanwhile, in 1848, a gentleman named Frederick Pabst arrived here into the United States with his parents. They set up shop in Chicago, and some point after that, he met Philip Best's daughter. They were married in 1862, and he began brewing for Best Select in 1863. Best retired in 1867, leaving his company to, I believe, what was his brother-in-law, which I don't remember the name of the guy, but his purpose was marketing with it. He wanted to take Best Select and really drive it out there and get the name and grow the brewery, especially after the Chicago Fire of 1871, which just knocked Chicago out of the running, and Milwaukee became the biggest beer producing city in the United States. So they really took advantage of that. In 1889, this gentleman did sadly pass away, leaving Frederick Pabst, as the guy at the helm. He added Pabst to the name. He started calling the beer Pabst Best Select, and he tried to find every single way he could market this and grow the brand. So here comes the World's Fair. They're having a beer competition. He said, I'm going to enter my beer. So Pabst was entered, and they won. They said they won and got a blue ribbon for first place. That's been debated, hotly debated, whatever you want to call it. Needless to say, blue ribbon or not, they took and ran with that. They changed the name from Pabst Best Select to Pabst Blue Ribbon. And on the bottle, what they did is actually took some blue silk and put it on the neck like a blue ribbon. And this caught on. People would go to the bar, ask for the blue ribbon beer. Everybody knew exactly what we were talking about. Genius marketing, right? So much so that besides World War I, and then of course Prohibition, they were going over 1 million feet, or using over 1 million feet of blue silk ribbon every single year. They caused a shortage of blue silk. That's how popular this became. Now, in Prohibition, once Prohibition hit, they changed to a cheese making facility in Wisconsin. And that's where Pabst came into play. Pabst, Wisconsin, cheese, World's Fair, it all kind of came together. So I made a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer cheese that I've stuffed some homemade pretzels with. And it really works nicely. Corn is the adjunct of choice for Pabst Blue Ribbon. I used to spice your cheese, and it just played really well, the sweetness and the spice. And that's how you got a one bite Chicago World's Fair Pabst Blue Ribbon. All right, so after Prohibition ended, they opened up a canning facility in Milwaukee, and they took the risk of putting the ribbon on the can as opposed to on the neck of the bottle. Very, very successful. We all know this label very, very well. And by 1977, Pabst was like the third most bought beer in the entire country. It was very, very popular. And people began seeing there is a lot of money to be made with this brand. So money started exchanging. People were buying this and that. CEOs were leaving. New CEOs, they had like 5 CEOs in like a 5-6 year period or 8-year period or something like that. Through all this turmoil, the brand started losing some of its steam. And by 1996, they actually shuttered their brewery in Milwaukee. In 1999, the company itself was able to broker a deal with Miller Coors to brew Pabst Blue Ribbon. And Miller Coors, even though this is the beer owned by Pabst, the brand Pabst, Miller Coors continues to brew Pabst Blue Ribbon to this day. As a matter of fact, Pabst, even though it is the 5th largest beer company in the country, doesn't brew any of its own beer. They outsource everything. But they own brands, of course, like PBR. They own brands like Stroh's. Chicago guys, I hate to say it, they own Old Style. Also Chicago, they own Not Your Father. If you remember in like 2015, that root beer became like all the rage around here. They own that, and they're a big reason why that marketing got out. They own Lone Star in Texas. The list goes on and on and on of different beers that they own. Yeah, so they're a big beer company. It's a little different. It's more of a marketing agency now, but what remains the same is the beer in the can. And what it is an adjunct lager. These became very, very important in Chicago brewing history, or Chicago beer history as a whole. German brewers were coming here to the United States, but barley was expensive, and it wasn't being widely grown here in the States yet. And then particularly when, like, once World War I hit, it was so scarce. They started brewing with minimal barley and adding adjuncts to it, or different grains to it, whether it be cereal grain, rice, or in particular with Pabst, they were using corn. This cut the cost because of barley being so expensive, and they were able to mass produce these beers. Listen, people weren't looking for nuances in beer back then. They were drinking it. That's what they wanted. They wanted something fast. They wanted something cold. They wanted something refreshing. And that's what these guys were making. The Schlitz, the Pabst, the Hams, you name it. Coors Banquet beer. They aren't nuanced beers. They aren't heavy hitters. They are crisp. They are refreshing. And that's what they were going for. Pabst in particular, because their adjunct of choice is corn, has a little bit of a sweetness to it, which once again is why I used it with the spicy cheese to make the beer cheese. So let's check it out. Don't expect much. And I don't mean that as an insult to... Get it in the glass, Jansen. Come on. I don't mean that as an insult to Pabst. I don't mean any of this as an insult to this particular style of Americana, so to speak, beers. They are what they are, and that's what it is. You can't fault them for it. It's worked for years. Think about it. People make fun of these type of beers, but people in country saloons and small towns to hipsters and that are just yearning for nostalgia here in dive bars of Chicago and in New York and LA are all drinking this beer. Still, it is what it is. So let's check it out. On the nose, you get, well, a little citrus, a little straw, little flower. German lagers are so much more in your face and so much more hoppy. There's zero hop, there's zero malt to this. It's just light, refreshing. We'll drink it as is. And that's what it's meant for. It's cool, it's crisp, very effervescent. Pabst, in particular, out of these adjuncts, that sweetness of the corn actually works really well to it. There's a hint of bitterness that kind of balances it out. Floral, little citrus, but that's what it is. It's just meant to be, drank and enjoyed on a hot day or in beer cheese on a goofy menu on a Friday night. Guys, have a great week. I'll see you soon.